A secret society of powerful wizards, a deadly betrayal, and a battle for ultimate power will decide the fate of an ancient bloodline. High on a cliff, overlooking the town of Ipswich, Caleb and his friends are observing a wild college party in the distance. Below them, dozens of students are dancing, laughing, and enjoying themselves. Fueled by excitement, the group fearlessly leaps from the cliff, heading straight for the party below. Upon their arrival, Kate immediately rushes to hug her boyfriend Pogue. Smiling, she introduces him to Sarah, her new roommate. A short while later, Sarah also meets the rest of the group, including Reed and Tyler. Meanwhile, Caleb finds himself captivated by Sarah. He appears keen to get to know her better and seems on the verge of starting a conversation. However, before anything can unfold, the moment is abruptly interrupted. Unexpectedly, Kira and Aaron appear, intent on causing trouble. They begin harassing the group, clearly looking to instigate conflict. Caleb attempts to remain calm, asking them to leave before the situation escalates. But Aaron is in no mood to comply. Instead of retreating, he shoves Caleb, instantly ratcheting up the tension. A fight now seems imminent. Just then, Chase, one of the new students, intervenes, attempting to de-escalate the situation before it turns violent. However, Reed decides to handle the problem in his own unique way. Secretly employing his magical powers, he casts a spell on one of the troublemakers, who promptly begins vomiting all over Aaron's back. Everyone around them is utterly disgusted. People quickly recoil, shocked by the repulsive sight. But before anyone can even comprehend what just transpired, the DJ suddenly shouts an urgent warning. Police cars are approaching the party. The festive atmosphere instantly dissolves into panic. Desperate to avoid arrest, all the college students scatter in different directions. In mere seconds, the entire party descends into total chaos. While escaping through the forest, Chase finally introduces himself to Caleb, who thanks him for his earlier intervention in calming the conflict. Soon, the group reaches their vehicle, preparing to leave. But just as they are about to drive away, Sarah suddenly realizes her car won't start. It appears there's an issue with the engine. Seeing this as a perfect opportunity to impress Sarah, Reed quickly steps forward, offering to fix it. Meanwhile, Pogue notices Caleb's slight annoyance and advises him not to worry too much about the situation. Without delay, Reed secretly uses his magical powers to repair the car engine. In only a few moments, the car starts working again, as if nothing had ever happened. After that, everyone gets ready to leave, but their night is far from over. Not long after driving away, a police car suddenly spots them and begins a high-speed chase. Knowing they could be arrested if they stop, Reed and Caleb decide on a daring maneuver. Instead of slowing down, they accelerate straight toward a massive cliff. At first, it looks utterly insane, almost as if they are about to crash. But without hesitation, they drive right off the edge, sending the Jeep flying into the air. Just before things get perilous, the group secretly combines their magical powers, causing the vehicle to float through the air. Now, instead of falling, the Jeep is actually flying. The police officers can barely believe their eyes. Completely bewildered, they stop their car and rush toward the cliff edge, assuming the students have crashed. But when they look down, there is no sign of them anywhere. Then, suddenly, the group's vehicle lands right behind the officers. Before the confused officers can even react, Reed quickly accelerates, driving away at full speed. Later that night, Caleb finally arrives home after Pogue gives him a ride. As he enters the house, he finds his mother, Evelyn, quietly gazing at a picture of Caleb's late father. The moment she sees her son, she confides in him about how much she still misses her husband. Then she shares something important. In just a few years, he and his friends will reach a special age called the Prime Age, a time when their magical powers will become significantly stronger than ever before. But Evelyn also issues a crucial warning. She tells Caleb never to overuse his powers, because every time the wizards of Ipswich use magic, they lose a small part of their lifespan. In other words, the more magic they use, the shorter their life becomes. This revelation makes the stakes feel much more serious. Evelyn then tells Caleb that he still has no idea how powerful he will become in the future. But before he leaves, she asks him to promise one thing: never let power corrupt him, as it has others before him. After this emotional conversation, Caleb heads upstairs to his room. Meanwhile, far away at the university dorm, Kate and Sarah are talking. Curious about everything happening around her, Sarah asks why Caleb and his group are called the Sons of Ipswich. Kate then explains the strange history behind it. She reveals that Caleb, Pogue, Reed, and Tyler all come from the 5 most powerful families in Ipswich. Back in the 1600s, during colonial times, these families secretly ruled the town and protected their magical bloodline. But Sarah quickly notices something strange. If there were 5 families, why are there only 4 boys? Kate suddenly becomes serious and explains that the 5th family no longer exists. According to the story, they were wiped out long ago during a witch hunt. At the same time, police officers are still near the cliff, baffled as to how Caleb and his friends escaped without crashing. Then suddenly, they receive a message on the radio. Someone may have found a victim deep in the forest. The officers rush to the location and discover an abandoned car sitting in the middle of nowhere. As they slowly approach, they notice an unconscious young man trapped inside. Quickly, they break the window to rescue him. But the moment they turn his face toward them, the officers freeze in shock. His eyes are completely white. It almost looks as if his soul has been taken from his body. Later that night, Sarah is taking a shower at the university dorm, when she suddenly hears the sound of a light bulb breaking nearby. Instantly feeling scared, she slowly steps out to check what happened. But as she looks around, something strange begins to form behind her in the darkness. Just before it can attack, Sarah suddenly turns around. Whatever it was quickly disappears and hides before she can see it clearly. Now completely unnerved, Sarah decides it is better to leave. But while walking through the hallway, Reed suddenly appears out of nowhere, startling her badly. After hearing what happened, Reed offers to help, asking Sarah to return to the bathroom with him so they can investigate who or what was there. Despite her discomfort, Sarah agrees. The two return to check the place, but everything looks normal. There is nothing there, so Reed eventually leaves. After saying goodbye, Sarah starts walking back to her room, but before entering, she turns around one last time, because something feels off. For a second, it almost looks like someone, or something, is moving through the building. The next morning, Caleb calls Pogue, after hearing news about the strange victim found in the woods. He expresses a bad feeling, and believes Reed may somehow be involved. While driving, Caleb suddenly looks to the side of the road, and sees something terrifying. The ghostly image of the same young man from the newspaper suddenly appears beside him. The sight frightens Caleb so badly that he loses control of the car. In seconds, the vehicle swerves into the other lane and crashes straight into a huge truck. The impact completely destroys the car, making survival seem impossible. But Caleb quickly uses his magical powers. Piece by piece, the wrecked car starts putting itself back together as if by magic. Somehow, Caleb survives the deadly crash without a scratch, leaving the truck driver completely shocked and confused. Worried, Pogue calls out to his friend. After pulling over, Caleb finally answers the phone and tells him everything that just happened. Pogue is shocked. He immediately wonders who would send a dangerous ghost spell after Caleb. Wanting answers, he tells Caleb they need to meet Reed later that evening at a local restaurant. Hours later, Caleb stops by a store to buy medicine and unexpectedly runs into Kate. During their conversation, Kate asks if he heard about the student found dead in the woods. Then she reveals something unsettling. The victim actually lived on the same floor as Reed and Tyler. But before they can talk more, Chase and Sarah suddenly arrive. Kate explains that she, Pogue, and the others are planning to watch a movie later, and invites everyone to come along. However, Caleb says he cannot go because he needs to help his mother. Sarah, clearly wanting to spend more time with him, also declines the invitation. So instead, Caleb offers to take her for a drive. Sarah happily agrees. While driving around town, Caleb shows Sarah the very first house his family ever lived in. Curious, Sarah asks if anyone still lives there. But before Caleb can answer, a gunshot suddenly echoes through the air. Sarah is startled after suddenly hearing a gunshot near the old house. The sound deeply shocks her, and for a moment she has no idea what is happening. But Caleb quickly calms her down, assuring her everything is okay. He asks her to wait in the car for a few minutes while he checks on something. Then Caleb walks inside the house. It turns out the gunshot came from Gorman, the old caretaker who has looked after Caleb's family for years. Caleb hands him a package of medicine and says goodbye, as if this is something completely normal. But something feels strange. Near the fireplace, there is a body lying on the floor. Yet Caleb doesn't even go near it or speak about it, making the whole situation feel mysterious. A few minutes later, Caleb comes back outside. Trying to lighten the mood, he casually asks Sarah if she has anything else to do before they head out. Confused, Sarah asks what he means. Caleb smiles and tells her they are going to one of the town's biggest bars to hang out with their friends. Later that night, everyone gathers around a table at the bar, but Pogue quickly starts feeling uncomfortable. He notices Kate sitting very close to Chase, and the two seem to be getting friendlier. At the same time, Pogue spots Reed and Tyler nearby playing pool with Aaron, the same troublemaker who caused problems at the party the night before. Still, everyone tries to enjoy the night. Wanting to make things more fun, Sarah changes the music, putting on a better song to lift the mood. Then, seizing the perfect chance, she invites Caleb to dance. But before they can enjoy the moment, trouble ignites once more. Reed and Aaron suddenly begin arguing, and within seconds, a fight seems imminent. Quickly, Caleb and Pogue rush over, pulling everyone outside before things escalate further. The students are just seconds away from throwing punches. But suddenly, the bar owner steps outside holding a baseball bat. Without saying much, he makes it very clear that fighting will not be tolerated near his establishment. Seeing this, everyone quickly backs down. Once they are alone outside, Caleb gets angry and starts scolding Reed for acting so recklessly. He warns him that he needs to control himself, but Reed loses his temper. Out of anger, he suddenly tries to use his magical powers against Caleb. Unfortunately for him, Caleb is much stronger. Without much effort, Caleb repeatedly knocks Reed down using his own powers. The fight quickly turns serious. Before things go too far, Pogue jumps in and calms Caleb down. Still upset, Caleb says Reed has been acting irresponsibly lately and warns that using too much magic could expose all of them. But instead of listening, Reed gets offended. He angrily claims he has not been using his powers carelessly and storms back inside the bar. The moment Reed leaves, Caleb becomes even more suspicious. Since Reed is the strongest one after him, Caleb starts thinking that maybe his friend is hiding something. Later that night, Sarah falls asleep in her dorm room, but instead of resting peacefully, she has a terrible nightmare. In the dream, she is trapped inside a room full of spiders. They slowly crawl toward her from every direction, appearing ready to attack. The nightmare feels terrifying. Suddenly, Sarah wakes up in fear. Breathing heavily, she slowly calms herself down and tries to forget what she saw. At the same time, Caleb gets an urgent call from Pogue, who says something strange just happened. He claims he saw the ghost of the same student who died in the woods a few days earlier. Now Caleb becomes even more worried. The two friends start believing that someone is using extremely powerful magic behind all these strange events, and whoever it is clearly has dangerous intentions. The next day, students return to class as if everything is normal, but Sarah cannot stop thinking about her nightmare. Wanting answers, she heads to the library and starts researching what she saw. While searching through old books, she finds one about ancient wizard families. As she reads, something suddenly catches her attention. Several family names are highlighted, and some of them sound very familiar. Soon after, Sarah also discovers information about spells connected to spiders, and learns that wizards can actually create terrifying visions using them. Now, she starts wondering if her nightmare was not a dream at all. Before she can continue reading, Kate suddenly arrives. Curious, Kate asks if Sarah has learned anything about Caleb or Pogue's family history, but Sarah shakes her head. She says Pogue never wanted to talk about it, and always claimed those old stories were just legends. Later, Caleb and the others gather inside the gym sauna. There, they find Aaron once again causing trouble, this time bothering Chase. Instead of getting scared, Chase laughs and starts mocking him back. Aaron gets angry and attacks him, but Chase is ready. With one quick move, he hits Aaron in a painful spot, leaving him embarrassed and helpless. Everyone bursts out laughing. Impressed, Caleb congratulates Chase and invites him to hang out with the group later that night. Chase happily accepts, but Pogue is not in the mood. Still upset about Kate getting close to Chase, he decides to talk to her directly. He tells Kate that he doesn't want her spending so much time with Chase anymore. But Kate gets angry immediately. She says Chase is just a friend and Pogue is overreacting. Still, Pogue doesn't believe her and walks away frustrated. The next day, the group gathers again to watch one of Pogue's swimming practices. After finishing the race, Chase walks over to Caleb and praises how good Pogue is in the water. Caleb smiles and says he would also like to see what Chase can do. Then he jokingly challenges him to a freestyle race. The two jump into the pool and begin a friendly competition. Everything seems normal at first, but just as they are about to finish, Caleb notices something terrifying. For a quick second, Chase's eyes turn completely black, almost as if he is secretly using magic. The sight shocks Caleb so much that he loses focus and slams straight into the wall of the pool. The hit knocks him unconscious. A few minutes later, Caleb finally wakes up as his friends pull him out of the water and explain that he had a small accident during the race. Even though everyone thinks it was nothing serious, Caleb cannot stop thinking about what he saw. Something about Chase feels wrong. For the rest of the day, Caleb quietly watches him during class, trying to figure out who he really is. Then suddenly, the professor receives a message. The university dean wants to see Chase immediately. Confused, Chase heads to the dean's office. Once there, the dean asks him a serious question. Did he know the student who was found dead in the woods? Chase calmly says no and claims he has no idea who the boy was. But then the dean reveals something shocking. Chase's ID card was found in the back seat of the victim's car. For a moment, Chase stays silent. Then he says he has no idea how it got there. The dean watches him carefully, but eventually tells him to return to class. As evening arrives, Caleb meets up with Pogue. The two decide they need answers, so they secretly break into the dean's office to learn more about Chase. Meanwhile, Sarah heads back to her dorm room and finds a note from Kate. In the message, Kate says she was feeling sick and had gone to the infirmary. Back inside the dean's office, Caleb and Pogue search through old records. Soon, they discover something strange. Chase lost both of his parents in a so-called car accident right after turning 18. Suddenly, they hear a security guard coming toward the office. Thinking fast, the two use magic to float up to the ceiling and hide. But during the panic, Pogue accidentally knocks some papers onto the floor. The guard is getting closer. Quickly, Caleb uses his powers to make the papers float in the air before the man notices anything. Luckily, the guard sees nothing suspicious and walks away. At the same time, Sarah speaks with the university doctor about Kate, and what she hears is terrifying. The doctor says Kate's fever is dangerously high, over 40 degrees Celsius, but that is not the strangest part. He explains that her body looks like she has suffered a terrible allergic reaction, almost as if she had been bitten by hundreds of spiders. Now Sarah starts getting worried. After putting everything together, Caleb and the others begin to suspect the truth. Chase may be connected to the missing fifth family. Wanting answers, the Sons of Ipswich gather at Caleb's old house to figure things out. While reading through old books again, they finally uncover the truth. Chase is not just connected to the fifth family, he is actually the true son of the family that was banished years ago. The shocking discovery changes everything. Tyler then admits something important. He says he has also been seeing the ghost of the dead student lately. At the same time, Reed finally clears his name, confirming he was not behind any of the strange attacks. Now Caleb finally understands. The person behind everything all along was Chase. Right then, Caleb gets a call from Sarah. She tells him about Kate's condition and how serious things have become. The moment Pogue hears this, he completely loses control. Filled with anger, he becomes sure Chase is responsible. Caleb tries to calm him down, but Pogue refuses to listen. Instead, he jumps onto his motorcycle and speeds off to find Chase himself, but things go terribly wrong. Before Pogue can reach him, Chase suddenly appears and causes him to crash his motorcycle. Then Chase finally reveals the truth. Pogue was never his real target. His true enemy has always been Caleb. Kate and Pogue were merely bait to lure Caleb into a trap. Meanwhile, Sarah returns to her dorm room, but before she can even relax, her boyfriend suddenly shows up and asks what happened. Sarah starts talking. Then suddenly, the door opens again, and standing outside is Caleb. Sarah freezes in confusion. If Caleb is outside, then who is standing beside her? That is when the horrible truth is revealed. The person inside the room is not Caleb at all. It is Chase, pretending to be him. Before Sarah can react, Chase puts her boyfriend into a deep magical sleep. Then he waits for Caleb. Moments later, Caleb arrives and immediately gets furious after seeing Chase there. Demanding answers, he asks what Chase is really doing. Chase finally tells him everything. He says his real father told him the truth about the fifth family, the family that was thrown away and forced to suffer. According to Chase, after being banished, his family had nowhere to go. Before dying, his father secretly passed some of his magical power to him, making Chase even stronger than normal. Growing up, Chase had no idea who he really was. He lived with adoptive parents, completely unaware of his powers or his family's history. And because of that pain, he spent years building anger. Now he wants revenge on everyone responsible for destroying his family. But while Chase explains all this, he does something truly terrifying. Using dark magic, he secretly places a spider spell inside Sarah's body. Slowly, dark magic begins spreading through her. and she starts getting controlled by the deadly spell. Then Chase finally reveals his real plan. He says that tomorrow night is Caleb's birthday, the night of his ascension, when his powers will grow stronger than ever before. But there is a catch. Chase demands that Caleb give up all of his power to him, and if he refuses, Sarah will die from the poison spreading inside her body. Hearing this makes Caleb furious. Filled with anger, he instantly tries to attack Chase using magic. But Chase is far stronger than expected. Without much effort, he repeatedly throws Caleb across the room as if he were nothing. Within seconds, Chase pins Caleb to the ground with his foot and tries to force him into giving up. Still refusing to surrender, Caleb tells Chase something important. Magical power is not unlimited. Every time wizards use magic, they slowly lose their life force. That is why neither Caleb's father nor Chase's father could escape their limits. No matter how powerful someone becomes, they cannot stop themselves from growing old. But Chase does not care. Blinded by anger and revenge, he ignores the warning. Instead, he gives Caleb one final order. Tomorrow night, Caleb must come alone to his family's old barn. That is where everything will end. Then Chase starts walking away. But before leaving, Caleb desperately begs him not to leave Sarah cursed. After a moment, Chase finally removes the spider spell, allowing Sarah to slowly return to normal. When Sarah wakes up, Caleb quickly tells her about Pogue's motorcycle accident. The two immediately head to the hospital to check on him. After waking up, Pogue warns Caleb to stay away from Chase. He says Chase is unbelievably powerful and too dangerous to fight alone, but Caleb refuses to back down. He promises that somehow they will handle the situation. Later, while sitting together in the hospital waiting room, Sarah reveals that Kate is finally recovering. Then Sarah decides it is time to ask Caleb the truth. She brings up the strange magic and the spells she found in the old book. Realizing she already knows too much, Caleb finally decides to stop hiding things. He takes Sarah back to the old family house, and there, a shocking secret is revealed. Caleb's father is still alive, but the moment Sarah sees him, she is stunned. The man looks incredibly old and weak. Caleb explains something heartbreaking. His father is actually only 44 years old, but because he used too much magic throughout his life, his body aged much faster than normal. Seeing this finally helps Sarah understand the dangerous cost of magic. Soon after, the group gathers at Evelyn's house to make a plan. Knowing Chase may try something dangerous, Caleb gives everyone jobs to do. He asks Reed and Tyler to stay with Sarah at the university dance and protect her. Since there will be many people around, Caleb believes Chase will not risk attacking in public. Meanwhile, Caleb decides to go alone to the old barn and face Chase himself. As the others head to the school dance, Caleb drives toward the meeting place. But suddenly, something goes wrong. Reed notices that Sarah has disappeared. At the same time, before Caleb can even reach the barn, Chase suddenly appears. Using his powers, he shatters every window in Caleb's car. Glass explodes everywhere. Then, just as quickly, Chase disappears again. With his car badly damaged, Caleb jumps out and looks around, ready to fight. But Chase is already gone. Having no other choice, Caleb continues toward the barn. The moment he arrives, Chase is waiting for him, and he is not alone. Chase reveals that he has kidnapped Sarah to make sure Caleb obeys him, but Caleb refuses to surrender. He angrily tells Chase he will never bow down to a traitor. Furious, Chase attacks immediately. The fight becomes brutal. Caleb gets thrown around the barn as Chase uses powerful magic to overpower him. At the same time, Reed and Tyler suddenly realize something terrifying. Caleb's moment of ascension has arrived, and nobody knows what is about to happen. As Chase watches, Caleb suddenly starts screaming in pain. Energy begins exploding around him during the transformation. Then finally, the ascension is complete. Caleb falls back to the ground. But now, something is different. He is much stronger than before. Before Chase can even react, Caleb suddenly attacks him with incredible speed and power. He starts hitting Chase again and again, not giving him a single moment to breathe. For the first time, Chase actually looks surprised. He is impressed by how much stronger Caleb has become, but Caleb does not let Chase's words distract him. Still full of anger, he grabs a trident and throws it straight at his enemy. Chase quickly dodges the attack. Then, only seconds later, he blocks one of Caleb's magical blasts and throws it right back at him. The hit lands hard, and Caleb crashes to the ground, badly weakened. Seeing the perfect chance, Chase quickly traps him in place, making sure he cannot move. At the same time, the damaged barn begins catching fire. Flames start spreading everywhere around them. Wanting to scare Caleb even more, Chase increases the fire around Sarah, leaving her trapped in growing flames. Then, with a powerful attack, Chase throws Caleb straight out of a window. Moments later, Chase walks outside and stands over his enemy. He gives Caleb one final choice. He orders him to say the magical words that will transfer all of his power. But even after everything, Caleb refuses. Though badly hurt, he suddenly kicks Chase away. Now completely furious, Chase attacks even harder. Again and again, Caleb gets thrown around and knocked to the ground. Still, he refuses to give up. Finally, during the fight, Caleb manages to block one of Chase's magical attacks and keeps fighting back. At the same time, far away, Evelyn rushes to Caleb's father. Desperate to save her son, she begs him to help Caleb at least once in his life. The old man hesitates. He knows that helping Caleb could change the future of the Sons of Ipswich forever. But finally, he makes his choice. Using the last of his strength, Caleb's father speaks the ancient ritual words. Suddenly, a huge wave of magical power rushes into Caleb. The energy is massive. But sadly, Caleb's father cannot survive after giving away so much power. Back at the barn, Chase instantly notices something is wrong. Caleb has suddenly become much stronger. Realizing the danger, Chase quickly rushes toward him to stop whatever is happening. But he is too late. Caleb releases his power all at once. A giant blast explodes into the sky. Within seconds, Chase is thrown high into the air and swallowed by a huge storm of fire and energy. And just like that, the traitor is finally defeated. Without wasting any time, Caleb rushes back into the burning barn and rescues Sarah before the flames can reach her. Outside, he gently wakes her up, finally knowing the nightmare is over. At the same time, back at the hospital, Kate and Pogue both regain consciousness and slowly start recovering. A little later, firefighters arrive to control the fire at the barn. But while checking the area, they discover something strange. Chase's body is nowhere to be found. Hearing this, Sarah becomes confused and asks Caleb where Chase could be. But Caleb honestly says he has no idea. Maybe Chase is gone forever, or maybe the story is not completely over. Later, Caleb repairs the broken windshield using his powers, and he and Sarah finally drive away together, relieved that the threat to the Wizards of Ipswich has finally ended. And that was the story of the Covenant.